So, let me ask you this. What's more important, living for today or taking a risk for tomorrow? When you're in a compromised or unfavorable position, is it better to play it safe and accept whatever small victories are within your reach? Or would you rather extend further than what might feel safe or comfortable, just for the slim chance that you could find something infinitely greater? Or to put this all in more specific terms, do you want bread or a lottery ticket? If you couldn't tell by the title of this video, the thumbnail of this video, and the footage that's currently on screen, I just finished watching the second season of Squid Game. I don't think I've ever mentioned Squid Game on this channel before, but just like everyone else in the world who 3 years ago decided to watch a random Netflix K-drama on a Saturday night only for it to actually be one of the most amazing works of art I've ever seen, it instantly became one of my favorite shows of all time. I never really thought that the show needed a second season, but I'm not gonna lie and act like I didn't secretly hope Netflix would push for another one. I think Squid Game getting a second season is one of the few times when corporate greed actually worked out well for the common man. I mean, the creator of the show himself even said that he only made the second season to make more money. Usually, that would be a bad omen of things to come, but to my surprise, the second season of Squid Game was actually pretty dope. It wasn't as unbelievably captivating, heartbreaking, and adrenaline-pumping as the first season was, but it definitely held my attention and left me demanding more. There were a lot of standout moments from the second season, but one of the scenes that stood out the most to me was in the very first episode, and it's pretty fitting that the episode itself is named after what's depicted: bread and lottery. Despite what the extremely violent and twisted children games of death might lead you to believe, Squid Game is about much more than just gore and shock value. There's themes of family, betrayal, socioeconomic inequality, the dark side of human nature, and a bunch of other philosophical mumbo-jumbo that nerds like me love to watch and yap about. But the dangers of greed have always been at the core of the show. Most, if not all, of the main characters in both Season 1 and Season 2 make critical, life-changing decisions based on a need for money. And that applies not just to them playing in the games, but in the decisions that they made prior that put them into the situation where they felt like they needed to play the games in the first place. No matter how bad you and I may feel for these poor, and I mean that literally by the way, contestants, for most of them, it was their own bad decisions that led to them being so desperate for money. Obviously, corrupt government policies and other predatory and scummy people in power added to those issues, but it often takes a lot more than being screwed over by the powers that be once or twice to get into the kind of debt that these people were into. So how does this relate to the bread and lottery scene? Well, the scene itself is basically a social experiment, and the only people who suffered from the social experiment were the homeless, and they barely count as people anyway.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
The experiment is conducted by this suspiciously handsome Korean man who looks like he'd be very good at fighting off hordes of zombies. He's called the salesman because he's the one who convinces people to join the games. In this episode, we get to see a day in the salesman's life through the eyes of two men who are following him at the request of the main character, Gi-hun. They watch the salesman buy 100 lottery tickets in one store and 100 bread buns from another store. He then takes the bread and the lotto tickets to a local park where the homeless are known to gather, and one by one he offers them a choice. Either they take the bread or the lottery ticket. Some choose the bread, but most end up choosing the lottery ticket. Not surprisingly at all, none of the people who chose the lottery ticket won the lotto. But that would have been a kind of funny twist if someone did end up winning. The experiment ends with the salesman pouring out the bag of unwanted bread buns and stomping them into the gravel in front of the confused and very hungry homeless people who chose the lottery ticket. There's something about this guy that seems a little unhinged. I'm sure it's nothing. The salesman scolds all of them for hypocritically choosing the lotto ticket while also being mad that he's destroying the bread. I feel like this whole sequence is supposed to be a microcosm of the death games and the players who choose to join them. It just shows that people who have lost everything will risk almost anything to get their life back, even if that risk will only put them further in the hole with no guarantee that it will pay off. This scene is presented to the viewer through the lens of the salesman, and it's his judgment that's given top priority. So the homeless people's decisions comes off as a bad thing. Like, Boo, stupid homeless people for not choosing some dry-ass bread over potential life-changing money. But watching this scene multiple times made me question if it really was an inherently bad choice to choose the lottery ticket. It sounds like a meme, but I'm serious when I ask this. How do extremely poor people stop being extremely poor? How can you responsibly save money, build up credit, live modestly, and make sound decisions when you have to provide for yourself, pay off your debts, work a job that doesn't pay enough to do either of those things efficiently, and keep from going mentally insane at the same time? The game of life is not made for us everyday people to win. It's made for us to work for the winners while we slowly lose more and more until we die. That's what debt, bills, 40-plus hour work weeks, and all the other shit that comes with being a cog in the system is really for. And that's just the average person. This experiment was done on the bottom 1% of the world, the people who don't work and just beg for food and money all day without giving anything back to society. Is it really reasonable for someone like that to play it safe and take a meal for today when it's likely they won't have a meal for tomorrow? Choosing the bread guarantees them more of the same, but taking the lottery ticket at least gives them a slim chance of something more. Is that really so bad of a choice? Obviously, it is hypocritical to be mad when you don't get the bread if you choose the other option, but I don't believe that choosing the lottery ticket makes someone in that position dumb or irresponsible. Another one of my favorite shows is called Atlanta, and I've made a whole retrospective series about why it's so good and why I think everyone should give it a watch. But one of my favorite quotes from the main character named Earn is when he says this regarding the idea of investing in something to make money in the future when you're unfortunately very poor.
Okay, see, I'm poor, Darius. Okay, and poor people don't have time for investments because poor people are too busy trying not to be poor.
Earn is right. That's the vicious cycle of poverty. It's incredibly hard to get ahead when you're constantly being pushed back to start. That might sound like a defense for choosing the bread instead of the lottery ticket, but even though Earn is right about what he said, he's still missing a big piece of the puzzle. Most rich people got their money at least one of four ways: stealing, luck, family, or charity. Either they were enough of a person to take money from others to get their wealth, they were lucky enough that some big-brained idea was successful and made them a fortune, they were born into or married into a family that was already rich, or they were financially supported by someone else who had money to spare and took pity on them while they attempted to get back on their feet. The idea of pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps is more of a mythic ideal than it is a true means to acquire wealth. Nobody truly achieves success on their own, and even though individualistic determination is very important to bettering yourself in your life, you'll always need others to make sure you attain whatever big goals that you have. For various reasons, impoverished people are often dissuaded from dreaming big and taking big risks to escape poverty. But if the chance for financial freedom and stability is literally handed to you, why not take it in lieu of food for that day? What are the chances that some guy in a suit is going to offer you a free lottery ticket again anyway? Well, actually, it's probably pretty close to the chances of actually winning the lottery. But my main point in all of this is that, in my opinion, it's not necessarily a bad thing to take risks to better your life, especially if your life isn't that great to begin with. Sure, you could fail and potentially put yourself in a worse situation, but it's like they say, if you've already lost everything, then I guess you got nothing to lose. But as always, I'm interested to hear what you guys think of the experiment and what the right decision should be. Do you think it's best to play it safe and keep the status quo, or would you say f it and think that people should take more risks in general? Let me know in the comments below. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to go rewatch Season 2 of Squid Game for the 4th time this week. I'll talk to you in the next one.